This is Support is Sexy, episode 172, with Joanne Tsianos, founder of the Queenbee.club. Welcome to Support is Sexy. I'm your host, Elayne Fluker, entrepreneur, author, and founder of Chic Rebellion Media. 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, I interview inspiring women entrepreneurs who share their wins and their lessons to help you take your business and your life to the next level and create something sexy. Here we go. Hi, everyone. Welcome to a new episode of Support is Sexy. I'm so excited to have you here. You know, it just would not be the same without you. So today we are welcoming my friend Joanne Tsianos, who she and I were in a mastermind group together last year, which was fantastic. I met so many incredible women in the mastermind, and I will be talking more about masterminds actually later this week as we go into March to get you ready for your year. But Joanne and I connected originally in a mastermind. We had a bond immediately. I actually consider her one of the prototypes for my Abby when I think about the Support is Sexy audience. But I really love what Joanne is creating or has created since being in that mastermind. And her platform is called Queenbee.club. And it is a platform for moms to find their flow. And I love what Joanne has to say about finding your flow, about not worrying about work-life balance as a mom, and about ways that mom can, in their own way, thrive in their hive. So Joanne talks to us on this episode of the podcast about how to pay attention to the questions people ask you so you can determine what kind of service or business you can create. She also talks about how to get through your day with more grace. I absolutely love what she says about this, so be sure to listen out for that because this is something we can take not only if we're moms, but just in general, how to get through your day with more grace. She also talks about how to avoid having a quote-unquote bad day, how your health affects things like your intuition. If you're not thriving in your hive, then the whole hive suffers. How to have moments of self-care, the importance of meditation, also simple tips for busy moms, the importance of belly breaths, stopping to take a deep breath. We don't do it enough. There is a lot of value in doing that. And we talk about, both of us, some circumstances where we've done that and felt the difference. Joanne also talks about how to be unapologetic about going at your own pace, why it's not healthy to just plow through everything, which is a habit for a lot of us. Also, as I mentioned, how to find your mom flow, why you shouldn't stress about work-life balance, getting over imposter syndrome, which we all have, and why you're the expert of your own experiences. So I know you're going to love this episode, whether you're a mom-to-be, a new mom, a mom who's had kids for a long time, or you're just a woman who is looking for a way to find, not balance, but a way to thrive in your own hive and find your flow. You will love this episode. So without further ado, Joanne Tsianos. So Joanne, thank you so much for joining us for an episode of Support is Sexy. I'm excited to have you here.
I'm so excited to be with you today.
Excellent. So first question, when did you first fall in love with entrepreneurship?
You know, it's hard to really pinpoint that, but I think I've always had a side hustle. I think I've always done freelancing on the side. My background is in creative and design. So I was always, helping people, friends with their stuff, even when I was working full time. I think the idea really hit me when I had my first son. And of course, it's like, wow, going back to work when this sweet little boy is at home or at a daycare, And then when I had my second son, that's when I really kind of got more serious about that.
About figuring out what you wanted to do or about being an entrepreneur in general, do you think?
Exactly, about figuring out both. What could I do that would be full-time to support me, but also that also gave me passion and could really help others, and just to not only help others, but also give me the time freedom. Mm-hmm. So entrepreneurship is always about, right? Like the time freedom to be home with my kids as I needed to and wanted to, because I didn't want to be a full-time stay-at-home mom. I have passions and ideas and things I wanted to do and create. So I needed time and space for that as well.
Excellent. So where did you grow up?
I grew up just outside of Toronto, Canada, so a little suburb. My parents are still there, and we moved to New York almost 5 years ago now. So, born and raised in Toronto.
What was a young Joanne like?
My mother would probably say I was too wild.
Were you wild? You were wild? I can't imagine.
Oh, yeah. I guess my sister was so calm and obedient, and I was always the rebel taker. But yeah, I've always had a lot of energy and a lot of wanting to do good things and lots of things. So I had to be reined in, as my parents would say. Yeah.
Were you the youngest or the oldest?
Oh, the youngest. Yeah.
You're the youngest. I get it. Child. We're the youngest. Yeah, exactly. You get to be the rebel when you're the youngest.
Totally.
Who would you say were some of your greatest influences growing up?
I think definitely my parents for sure. They have a typical immigrant story where they arrived in Canada and didn't have a full education, and they had to create their own business to survive and to get ahead. And of course, they worked really, really hard. It was very much the mentality, of course, of working hard, working extra, of every minute for every dollar, which instilled an incredible work ethic in me, but didn't necessarily influence the sense of freedom that comes with entrepreneurship. It was always very much the heavy work ethic, which I completely appreciate. And I know it's made me strong. Now, it was very, very strict Greek family, very strict Greek upbringing. So I was very traditional in that sense. Mm-hmm. But I think it really taught me perseverance and some really deep inner strength. Like I say now, knowing what my mother went through coming to Canada without knowing the language, with very little money, and having no family here. Like my dad had his family here. A lot of his brothers had already immigrated. But she came with him and knew nobody. So I think about, what can't I do?
Right.
If she could do that, right? What can't I do? So
what kind of business? Me a lot of strength. What kind of businesses did your parents have? Did they do, or was it a mixture of things?
A mixture of things. I remember being young, my dad used to work as a cleaner at night, working in offices when the offices would close. Mm-hmm. And then they saved some money and opened up a restaurant, and then over the years opened up another and then another. So growing up, their main businesses was restaurant, but I know they did a lot of different things to, stay creative and stay afloat.
So at what point did you decide? I know you said with having your children, it was sort of, you got more serious about entrepreneurship or figuring out what you could do, especially around flexibility. But what do you think it was, or what was a turning point when you said, okay, I'm going to start my own thing?
It's a very good question, because I've always been I got more interested in health, of course, after my kids were born. Mm-hmm. And I partnered with a wellness company and started building that on the side. But in terms of becoming, really my own thing was just a few years ago, truly, was when I decided that, actually it came that people would ask me, other moms would ask me, how do you do it? How do you do it? How do you stay happy and positive and still do all these things? Because I was freelancing. I still am freelancing. I love my doing creative and design work, so I still freelance in that. PTA duties, trips, a healthy, happy marriage, which I'm very, very proud of. Mm-hmm. And people would ask me, how do I do it? And I think that's when I started reflecting on what was it that I was doing that I could also then help others, because I didn't feel like it was, rocket science. At the same time, I also had taken up, I joined IIN, the Institute for Integrative Nutrition, to become a health coach, just out of and there you go, I added another thing to my plate, right. Just out of, I guess I wasn't busy enough, out of my own personal edification. I wanted the information, not thinking I would become a health coach. And what I found that year was that between my own reflection, my own writing, I started writing a book and collecting those ideas, and learning more about health coaching. The two married really well together. Mm-hmm. So I realized that I could really help make a difference to moms' lives by giving them some tools and resources around health, well-being, mindset, getting through the day, and I think of it as getting through the day with grace. Because it's going to be hairy. Something's going to, there's always some, and I talk to moms, of course, but it's not just a mom story. It's every woman's story, I believe. we get sidetracked by so many obligations and commitments, leave so little time for ourselves, and yet we can get through it all with grace.
I think that's so beautiful. I think, as you said, for moms, but for every woman, because grace is such a beautiful word. I just love that word anyway. If I have a daughter, maybe I'll name her Grace. Mm-hmm. But how do you, what are some tips that you have, or just one way maybe for you personally that you ensure that you remain focused on getting through the day with grace? Because as you said, things get crazy and things happen, life happens. What are some of the ways or a way that you really focus on that?
There are definitely more than one things. What I tend to really stay focused on mostly is staying positive. Mm-hmm. Is my mindset. I constantly think about reframing the situation. So, and it's not a bad day, it's a bad 5 minutes. Mm-hmm. It's like, okay, that happened. Now, what do I do about what happened? Do I go down that rabbit hole and feel horrible for the rest of the day and make others feel horrible? Or can I reframe it somehow? And that's not always easy. It's not easy when you're having a kid giving you a tantrum. It's not easy when, work is blowing up. So, but there's always a way. I feel like there's always a way to reframe it.
And I love what you said about not going down the rabbit hole. It's sort of like controlling the spiral, right? It's like if you let it go, it'll just continue to go. And then it is a bad day. But being focused on, okay, this was a bad either moment, 5 minutes, however long it is. And then There's much more to the day.
Right. And I think I became very aware of how much my actions influence my kids. And I'm not by any means I come from a passionate Greek background, so mm-hmm. I get loud for sure. But, I'm very aware of how my actions affect my kids or how they're learning from that. So what example am I giving them? Am I giving them the tools to also be able to reframe their moments? Or am I just teaching them to blow up and, lash out? So,
So it sounds like all around just being much more self-aware.
Definitely. Yeah.
Excellent. Now, tell us about how life and the challenges and the experiences as a mom, a busy mom, I should say, evolved into you creating the Queenbee.club, which I love.
Thank you. Well, you were also an influence in that as well. We met when I was creating that.
Yeah.
And just having that support of these women around me to help me do it. So the question, I guess, was how did I create those ideas into the Queenbee.club?
How did it evolve, or your experience just as a mom and the challenges and paying attention? I think something else you said that was great, paying attention to the questions that other moms were asking you. How did that all come together for you to create this community that is the Queenbee.club?
Well, the Queenbee.club was created because I had started writing a book about all my experiences and realized that it could become more than just that it really could really shape and share and touch people every day, not just in one compilation. Mm-hmm. And that's how the Queenbee.club was created. And I really wanted to get to women where they were feeling the most stress. I think a lot of us, we have these careers before babies that we hopefully love. I love my career, I love my job. But I had changed as a person and I still wanted to be with my family. And so the stress of having to work is a big thing as well. And then you're at the workplace. You want to do a good job. How can you focus and be positive and get through your day and be supported as a mom? So these aren't so much, Queenbee is not about mom hacks or kid tips, as opposed to being about yourself and about giving you tools to live with more grace, like I mentioned earlier. And I was very fortunate that I started working with, connected with women-led businesses or businesses that had strong female leadership, mm-hmm. To create some programs for women that are, supporting them in the workplace. Programs where they're breakfast sessions or lunch and learn type of things where I can come in, and I love marrying the idea of health with mindset and mom ideas. So for example, one of my favorite discussions that people are always amazed about are your intuition as a mother and as a woman, but how that could be even stronger and better with a healthy gut. So, it's there's some practicality there, but there's also some, intangibles, and how do we implement those things in our day? So,
I love that you incorporate health into it, because so much of that is, as you said, tied together, which we sometimes don't think about, especially things around stress or intuition or that kind of thing.
Of course. And if your body is not tired, if your body's not trying to digest a big heavy meal or something that you might have a food intolerance to, then it wouldn't be as tired, right? Like all that energy in digesting could be used elsewhere. And those are simple things that we just sometimes, I think we forget about, not just sometimes, a lot. We don't always think that they're married, but they really are.
What does it mean to you to be a queen bee?
Queen bee to me, really, I think it's like a fun analogy. Like I ended up with the bee idea because I have a love for bees, and I want to eventually have my own apiary and be a beekeeper. I don't know where that's going to be, somewhere in someone's backyard, nice. Or at least, yeah. And this spring, I'm going to join a collective. But the idea of a queen bee, of course, is that if you are not thriving in your hive, and that's also what I ended up naming my book, but if you're not thriving in your hive, then the whole hive suffers. So the self-care that we need to, and the love that we give to our family, we need to give to ourselves. We teach people around us, of course, how to treat us. I'm raising boys. I want to raise them to be good to women, right? And it's funny. I was reading an article to my son about a list of extraordinary things done by ordinary women. And he was kind of surprised that list even needed to be written. So I felt like, I'm doing something great,
Right.
But queen bee really is, how can I, and it's not always about it's about self-care, but self-care doesn't have to be expensive or a weekend away or this big production. Self-care can happen in moments throughout our day.
I love that. What are some ways that we can take care of ourselves throughout the day?
Well, the very easiest would be meditation. And again, it doesn't have to be a perfect 20-minute practice twice a day, which would be amazing. But wake up, 15 minutes earlier and do, 7 minutes of breath work. Start with 3 minutes if you are not new to meditate. If you're new to meditation and this is all very scary to you, or you feel like your brain can't rest, that has changed my day. And I've always been so birds in my brain. I feel like it's just I'm always going here and there, and that still happens to me. And I have so many ideas, and I want to do so many things, and multitask like crazy. You can even just probably tell how fast I'm talking right now. But the meditation really I find there's more to myself inside. I can really dig deep into who I am and what I want, and ideas come to me, and peace comes to me, and how I want to connect with my children comes to me. So that's a huge one. And I always tell, the simplest trick I give to moms in the workplace, can I give one?
Yes, of course.
Would be, we're multitaskers, obviously. Maybe we're on multiple projects and we have people coming to us with different types of fires we need to put out. But if we were to do one task, not multitask, do one task focused. And even if we put a timer on that task, never sit for more than, 45 minutes. But, let's say we're just completing a task and then we have to move on to something else. Just stopping and taking 5 deep breaths. Close your eyes and take 5 deep belly breaths before starting that extra task. What does that take? 10 seconds?
Right.
It doesn't take long, but you can really feel yourself just, first of all, put one to rest, calm yourself without being reactionary to the next thing that you need to get done.
You're so right. It's thank you for those tips. First of all, those are excellent. I think meditation, I love that you said, even if it's just 3 minutes, that could be the best 3 minutes of your day, right? It's just getting still. And I think breathing is something, deep breathing, like you said, belly breaths, is something that we all forget, moms and everyone, as we're rushing around. I know when I was traveling the other day, carrying all the bags, and I was on one end of the airport, and the Lyft driver needed me to be on the other end, and you just start to feel yourself kind of get frazzled. And I stopped and I took a few deep breaths. Even it was audible breaths. I didn't care who heard me. Yes, I'm breathing loud. It just was just stop for a minute, take a deep breath. This isn't a bad thing. It could always be worse. I just sort of went through the whole thing of just calm down, don't get upset kind of thing. And then I just started again. So even in the middle of, as you said, settling one task and moving to another. But I think even when you sort of feel things rising up in you or a little bit of chaos around you, to stop and take those deep breaths.
Absolutely. Like you said, it could always be worse. You can think of in a second, you can think of so many things, like how that situation could get like so much worse.
I know. Or just think
Right?
about the fact that, oh, things are so bad. You're in an airport. You just took a fabulous trip and your car that's picking
Right.
you up is far. You know what I mean? Even just for the sake of perspective, it's like, calm down.
Yes.
It's fine.
Right.
Things can be a lot worse. What would you say about the Queen Bee community? Because I know community is very much a big part of the group as well.
Definitely. It's I want to always make sure that my queen bees know that they are listened to, that it's a safe place, that it's sometimes you just need to vent. And sometimes I feel bad about venting because I feel like, oh, but I'm supposed to be positive and reframe everything. But you do. Sometimes you
Being
just need to vent.
authentic. Yeah.
Right? But you need to vent. You need to cry. You need to like let it out. And it's a safe place where we get it. Like, we get it. Like, our kids can drive us insane and you wouldn't change a thing about them. Like, like all those dichotomies. So that's a thing that I always want to instill in my queen bees. And also that they're they can be inspired by being with others.
That's right. Support is sexy.
Support is sexy.
And people can find the community on Facebook, right? Queenbee.club.
Queenbee.club, yeah, there's a private Facebook group. So I have like a public group that I don't really, I participate in, of course, but the private group is where there's more participation happening. So people can request to join that group. And then Queenbee.club is the website where I have my newsletter. And I also, I don't apologize for another thing a queen bee should never do is, I have a very busy life, so I send out newsletters, but I'm not going to be the newsletter in your inbox every week. I want to send you really quality articles, share the things that are happening around you or events that I'm putting together, and in bite-sized pieces that you can also manage yourself. Right?
I love that, Joanne, especially the idea that don't apologize for that. That's the whole thing about being a queen bee, right? You have to do it in a way that works for you.
Right. I had to take that pressure off myself because you see what's going on around you with other entrepreneurs and their newsletters, and you want to keep up or know the best practices for that. But also, I don't want queen bees to feel like they can't live up to being a queen bee, because I feel like they all are. That, oh, look at Joanne sending out these weekly newsletters and they're so this and they're so that. And it's like, no, it's like, I've got something to say that I've heard you guys want to hear about. And therefore, I can be inspired to write about that and help and that kind of thing. So
I think that's another thing that's good for everyone, especially new entrepreneurs and people listening who are either already have a business, launching a business, and we get caught up in what everyone else is doing sometimes, or even it might not even be about everyone else. We want to do a newsletter every day or however often, but as you said, it's sort of looking at the reality of what makes sense for me at this time. Is it better to send out an email under stress just because you want to do it every day, or really send something when you have something that you really want to share with your community?
Absolutely. And, we shouldn't just drive through everything because then nothing really changes for the better. And that's another message that I try to remind queen bees, because moms, we take on so much. Well, women as well, but moms take on so much. And we feel like we need to be the martyr. But we drive through everything. And maybe there's a deadline that you can drive through to meet. And that's, obviously like that happens. And today your kid is sick, so you've got to deal with that. And tomorrow you have a travel planned for your work, or, that's what I call it, mom flow. You flow between what's happening as opposed to striving for work-life balance. But pushing through everything doesn't make it better. You're going to find health issues. You're going to find relationships are compromised. Or just missing connections where you could have those with your kids or your husband or your friends, right?
Yes. And tell us about mom flow versus work-life balance.
I felt like balance for me was stressful. I felt like I had to, I'm striving to reach work-life balance and I'm failing. Because what is it really? Is it like this generic hallmark term that makes us feel like we have to have it? And what is it today versus, next week when, like I said, maybe I have a sick child, or when I'm sick, or I have someone visiting, or like all the things that happen to us in a given week or given day, right? So I really felt like, we do what we can with grace. We don't just, and I don't mean about procrastinating or being like putting things off in the sense that you're not caring. It's more about flow. It's what am I choosing to focus my attention on to make it better, because it needs my attention right now. And then I can, not that I'm putting things on the back burner, but I'm kind of putting them in a little box, and I know they're there, and then I can go back to them as they need me. And it's not so much always being chasing to put out the fires. It's that it's flowing your attention as it needs to go.
Right. I love that.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it totally makes sense. I love it. Now, tell us about the course that you also have for moms about buzzing in the bedroom, because it goes beyond our different kind of flow.
Different kind of flow. Yeah. Well, that's one thing about being a queen bee. Like, you are, as moms, I kept hearing how our relationships were suffering. We don't have the spark or the time to be with our husbands or our partners like we used to be. We have less interest because we're tired, because we're busy, because sometimes we're just crossing each other, and, are you getting the kids here? Yeah, I'm making dinner there. And then you go, right? Mm-hmm. So hearing that moms needed to or wanted to reconnect with their partners in a way that, again, is safe. I partnered with a good friend of both of ours, Connie De Silva, who owns Whole Clarity, but also she is a sex coach and an intimacy coach. So I'm like, Connie, I think we could really do something fun here. So we created this course. It's, it's online. You can take it as you need to. There's short segments. So I know, again, moms are busy. They need to come to this as they find time in their day. Mm-hmm. And they can watch it over and over again because it's always there. And what we cover is tips about health that would make you feel, if you have a date night planned with your husband, then not to feel so bloated leading up to it. Or how to feel less tired, or hormones, and then, of course, just overall relationship tips. And then Connie gets into some really good details about aphrodisiacs and that are natural and safe, and also great tips when you only do have 10 minutes because the kids are, playing video games or having a nap or whatever it is, and you're connecting for 10 minutes, that you're actually, you can actually have some really serious, hot fun. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, and that course is it links through my website, Queenbee.club, but it also has its own dedicated, it's e-school, it's an e-course, so it's self-love-school.com.
Great. So I'm going to make sure that I link to everything there, and Connie was on the podcast as well, so I'll link to her episode too for everyone listening.
Awesome. And I can give everyone on Support is Sexy a 25% discount on that.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
What do we do? Just enter the code Support is Sexy?
Why don't we do that? That's a great code.
Okay. Excellent. Thank you. That's great. So everyone, and I love that the course is, of course, about, like you said, the 10 minutes of hot fun and all of those things, but also those practical tips, and the health is a thread through that as well, as in all of the things that you do.
Of course. And that's part of flow, right? You only have 10 minutes. It doesn't mean that you can't connect with your partner.
Right. That's right. Get it in 10 minutes. So what does your support network look like, Joanne?
Well, it takes a village, right? My biggest fan and my strongest support is definitely my husband. And we've had, no marriage is perfect, but we've been together now this year 17 years. And I say to him often, wait a minute, aren't I too young to be married for 17 years? Forget how old I am. Definitely my girls, my friends, my fellow queen bees. And my support network, is also my mom. I often tell queen bees, call up the person that gives you that calm. For me, it's my mom. If your mom's not around, it might be someone else. But I don't actually, and when I do call my mom, I call her every day, of course, but just hearing her voice and knowing that she's there, I often don't tell her that, she's giving me that support or that strength. Or sometimes I even feel guilty telling her that I miss her because she then becomes very sad and, oh, you should move back home. And why, the guilt kind of builds up. But just knowing that we talk every day, you have to go to the places that bring you some of that calm. And of course, there's always your community, working out and my running partners are my support network. My meditation apps are my support network, right?
What are some of your favorite meditations, or is there one that you use more often than others, just to tell people who are looking to get into meditation? Sure.
Yeah. Well, Donna DeCruz is one of my favorite meditators, and I've seen her a few times. But she also has some great meditations on Spotify. I also use the Inscape app and the Insight Timer app. Insight Timer is great because you can go and just meditate on your own with some background music or noise. And then you can also choose from like thousands, like 4,000 plus different guided meditations. And they're rated so you can see that, I only have 5 minutes, I'll try this one, or I'm going to actually sit for 25 minutes. There's another one there that's longer. So there's a lot to choose from on those.
So Insight Timer app, and what was the other one you said? Inscape?
Inscape.
Okay. Great. So I will find those as well. Excellent. What would you say that entrepreneurship has taught you about yourself as a woman or as a queen bee?
Well, that I'm stronger than I ever thought possible, or that I've given myself credit for. It's also taught me that I think what others have done to create what they've created, like it kind of demystifies it a little bit. Like you just have to get in there and do it and try it and do it wrong and then try it again.
Right. I always say there's learning in action.
Oh, yeah.
You and I talked about that. You can sit forever with the idea and it's kind of like, let's just do it. See what happens.
Let's just do it. And you've been so great about that. Like you created so much. And sometimes it's like, you have an inspiration. It takes you to 2 a.m. But at other times it's like, I'm going to create this. I'm going to put it out there.
Right.
And then I'll come back to it in a week and edit it. And that's been a huge lesson. I've also, learned that people won't always like me or they might not care about what I'm doing. And
that's okay.
It's okay. And I thought, oh my gosh, this is going to speak to all moms everywhere. And it's like, really? No. And that's okay. Yeah. People will come to it as they need to, if ever.
How did you get to the point of that realization where it was just, because I think that's something a lot of us, again, if we're either starting out or maybe even into our business and we don't feel like it's connecting with everyone everywhere. And they say, your business actually shouldn't connect with everyone everywhere. You need some kind of focus. But how did you come to that realization for yourself?
Some days it's hard to come to that realization, right? Like you want, like your ego comes up and you want to, why doesn't she like my posts? But I think just the more moms that I met and people when you don't even expect it and someone comes to you and says, what you said really helped me or that really resonated with me and thank you. Those are the surprises that inspire me and keep me going. Because sometimes you don't know how you've affected someone and your mind might be focused on, like social media, you always see the most glossiest of pictures and you're focused on that, which can be really like, what am I missing out on? And I should really be like that. Those shoulds that can be so harmful. But when you realize that people come to you and say, thank you. And you're like, wow, like that was great. And I'm glad I helped,
Right. And I think to your point, I've had that happen to me where, one, being surprised by who's watching or in my case, listening and that kind of thing. But also knowing that sometimes people don't comment or they don't like a post or something, but they still may see it and still listen and that kind of, I had to come to that realization too, because everyone, there's a tendency with the social media age to get caught up in the likes, the numbers, the engagement in that way. But there are some people who they just listen. They don't need to comment or that kind of thing. And then they might send me something later and I'm like, oh, I didn't even know that, it affected people in this way. Yeah. So being open to the different ways that people connect with you that you might not even be aware of.
And I think if you're being authentic with what you're putting out there, that you will have those influences, like you'll be able to influence people in ways that you're not always privy to know. Maybe you're not supposed to know, right?
Right.
But if you're authentic and it's real and you're putting it out there, then it's going to help somebody somewhere.
And do you feel like that's the thing that you sort of have to hold on to too when you're an entrepreneur or creative or, building a community or something new? It's sort of being secure or being okay with knowing that, as you said, you're being your authentic self and you're putting out something that you feel is good for the world, your community, the universe. Either way, right? Because if you just wait for when people come, it's sort of, there'll be moments when no one's saying anything and you'll think, should I just stop?
And, I think also like definitely any entrepreneur and any like human being goes through that. But as a creative person, you can be so harsh on yourself about the quality, the perfectionism. Is it good enough? Also the imposter syndrome. Like at one point it was like, I'm writing, but my background, I was trained in art and fine arts and design. And what do I know about writing? Should I even be writing? Should I be talking about mother stuff? And then it's like, wait a minute, like, I'm a mother and I have experiences, and of course I know how to like write, and I might not be Ernest Hemingway, but I'm saying something that needs to be said, that at the very least, I need to say it, and it needs to be said. So I do have that authority as a mother to have my own point of view to be able to help others. It's not everyone's story, right? But
exactly. I have a friend, Marlon, who says you are an expert. You're an expert of your own experiences.
Oh, yeah, that's great. Thank you. I love that.
I love that too. Marlon, I gave you credit for that last time. Tell us a little bit about your...
I'm going to use it, Marlon.
I know. Tell us a little bit about your book, Thrive in Your Hive.
Oh, yeah, thanks. I was writing this bigger book, and it was never getting finished. And of course, then I got deeper into Queen Bee, so that was put on hold. And this is funny too, because I was, I started it and I was so inspired. And then I like to take my summers off, and that's part of my what I work towards as a freelancer, as an entrepreneur, to be with my kids. And then, of course, I was almost done, and then summer hit, and nothing got done. And then I went back to it, of course, and the next summer came, and it was the same kind of idea. So instead of, a lot of the content got put into different content that I'm putting out there, different articles, Huffington Post Parents, and She's Savvy, in different places that I'm publishing. But what I ended up doing was I created more of a novella, if you will, like a smaller edition of strategies. I called it Thrive in Your Hive, and it's just my top 8 tips for strategies to live gracefully and happier and healthier as a mom. It's on Amazon. It's a Kindle book, or it's also can be direct published, which has been fun. I really needed to just get it out there.
Right.
And, maybe one day I will create something bigger that I can, pursue a publishing contract or something to that effect. But right now I wasn't worried about that. I just really wanted to share it. Yeah. So, and then again, of course, as a designer, I was like, I'll just design this cover. And that stuff comes easy to me. It's the getting over the doing it that can be hard.
Excellent. And I'll make sure I have a link to that too. And I love your voice as a writer. And as you said, as with everything that you do, it's authentic. It's you being you and sharing your story.
You. Yeah. That's a huge compliment coming from you, Elayne, honestly.
Oh, stop it. So in closing, Joanne, if you think over your life and career and you had the chance to thank only one person whose support was critical to you personally or professionally, who would that be and what would you say?
One person. Wow. I'd have to say it's my husband for sure. Now, I met him at work, so he taught me a lot about advertising. And no matter what crazy idea I've had or wanting to pursue, he's always been there to say, let's figure it out. And, also to give me some dose of realities. So when I'm losing my mind over the kids, when I'm losing my mind over myself, he's been that balance, that other side. And now he's also a creative guy, so we tend to notice that in each other when we're losing it. So I'm so fortunate to have him and to be with him and to have met him.
Excellent. Now tell us how we can support you. As I said, I'll have links to everything, but what do you want people to know about? Give us your website, social media, anything else that you want us to be on the lookout for.
Oh, amazing. Support would be to share that, share Queenbee.club. If you're in the New York area, I would be thrilled to come and speak at your place of work and create some program that would be, really customized to where you guys are and what would help your work situation. I'm going to be putting out a spa day for moms in a couple months, so I'll definitely put that. We had a really fun one in the fall, so I'll put that up on my site when that's ready, and it'll be on my newsletter. So join the newsletter and you'll get all those info. But connect with me if I can support any of you and lift and moms in any way I can.
And it's Queenbee.club.
Thank you. Yeah.
Excellent. Joanne, thank you so much. It's such a pleasure. Well, it's always a pleasure to connect with you, but I'm so excited about what you're creating and the community that you're building and that you're just doing it. It was an idea and now you're doing it and it's coming out beautifully.
Elayne, thank you so much.
Yeah.
This community of Support is Sexy has been, I listen into your podcast, and when I'm feeling a little bit like, what am I doing? Then there's Elayne with some great podcast, and it's amazing. So thank you.
Absolutely. Now, before you go, what's a parting piece of advice from you to our listeners about anything?
I think we all have the ability inside us to change our day. I really feel like that's a driving force for me. And, it's funny because I picked up one of Gabrielle Bernstein's cards, like those card decks and Words of Wisdom this morning. And the card was, I have it here beside me, I can change my patterns when I change my mind about them. And I know that we all have the ability inside us to change our day.
Excellent. Joanne, thank you so much. Hold on for just a second. All right, I hope you enjoyed that episode with Joanne. And now for more information, for resources, for links to the course that she mentioned on how to get buzzing in the bedroom and to get that discount for Support is Sexy audience, be sure to go to supportissexypodcast.com, search Joanne, Joanne, and you'll see her episode there. She is, again, the founder of the Queenbee.club. We have a couple of Joannes on the site, so be sure you look for Joanne, founder of the Queenbee.club. Go there, find the links to everything, all of the resources that she mentions, the books, and again, her course on buzzing in the bedroom. And listen, if you've been listening to the show for a while or this is your first time, I hope that you love it. I appreciate you being here. But if you're listening on iTunes or Stitcher, please leave us a review. I would love a 5-star review for the show, but whatever you leave, I appreciate any kind of feedback. Again, 5-star reviews are fun. Any kind of feedback is wonderful. So please be sure to do that so I can hear what you think about the show, anything I'm doing right, anything you'd like to see change, anything that you've experienced from listening. I would love to hear from you. All right, again, so thank you so much for listening. I truly appreciate you. And now you know what to do. Go out there and create something sexy. And I'll talk to you soon. Take care.